Hello, Planet Sewers. Welcome to CangoThon. We are supporting the Cango Wildlife Ranch, and all of these creators are backing it. So these videos are leading up to a live stream, my very first one, that will be happening during the CangoThon. So Friday, July 23rd at 8 p.m. Central Time Zone. I will be doing a live tour of the zoo that you're going to see in speed builds across my channel and Ravensguard Gaming. So make sure you check out the links in the descriptions. Sorry, I botched that. The links in the descriptions. There we go. So you can go check out the videos that Raven is putting out. We built this together. And also so you can see how you can support CangoThon and the Cango Wildlife Ranch. So, today I have a speed build for you. It's a rather long one, I'm sorry, and excuse the pun, but this entrance was a beast to build. I'm super excited about it. I started it out in a bigger map. I did not know I was going to team up with anybody. I did know I wanted to recreate, as best as I could, the entrance to Cango Wildlife. So I started it in a separate file, and then Raven and I decided we would do a ZooLittle, and since I already had this started, I just blueprinted and moved it over into the ZooLittle file. So there'll be a little jump once I get part of it built, and then the rest will stay in the other file, of course. So I was trying to get the texture and color variation that is present in the alligator mouth as you walk up to the Cango Wildlife Ranch. Also, thank you so much to Gazzy and whoever else participated in making pictures and videos for us creators. I resourced that a lot. Google Earth had some images from the street, and I could find source images to go with the entrance from Google, but as far as what the rest looked like, I wouldn't have been able to do this without those files. And thank you to Pausley for organizing all of this and sharing all of that wonderful stuff with us. So I'm super grateful. I had a great time making these. So this entrance, like I said, is quite a beast. So sorry for the long speed build. I am trying to edit it out a little bit more as I do the voiceover. So you'll get to see everything in the live stream. We'll do a full tour of what Raven and I built, and you'll get to look at it through a lot of different views. What I was doing here is making the throat of the crocodile that's at the entrance. I did this a couple of times to get the size right, using the mud pillar to create a nice good curve. I was super happy with how it turned out. Now we're gonna jump in. I had saved right there, and we're gonna start what is going to be the ZooLittle. So I was looking at Google Earth to do this, and the aerial shot that was provided in the creator content packs that Cango Wildlife provided for us with images. They had a good aerial of the ranch in there, and Google Earth also helped with being able to lay out what it looks like in the front. So it's not a full recreation, just part of the entrance is. The rest of the zoo will be just how Raven and I decided to build a habitat based off of how I built the entrance. At one point when I was building this, I sent a message to Raven and I said, I think I have dug ourselves into a hole. I was kind of regretting I didn't pay attention to some of the elevation change that was happening in the entrance. I may have raised this up and then gone down, but it did make for some great different perspectives, and it's a more real life feeling instead of everything being flat. You do go down into the zoo and then kind of back up on my side of the build into the cheetah and the pygmy hippo habitats, which will be in later videos. So I just stuck those walls down there. I wanted to measure out. I didn't want it to be too big. So I was making sure because this is a small map. And when I got done with the entrance, I was like, whoa, I think I made it way too big. But I wanted to also, I was trying to conserve my space and not take up a whole lot. So that's why right here, when I put in this drive down in, it's a little unrealistic. You do need an off-road vehicle to go down that slope probably, but it works out. It is a game. If I'd had a full map, I would have made that definitely less steep. Putting in what I had originally path-wise in my other file and setting this down. And I just did my terraforming as I went. I didn't want to flatten the entire map out to fit this elevation, because I could see from the images that there was a lot of different elevation going on as you came into the entrance and went down into what I would kind of call the reception area of the zoo when you first walk in, or the ranch. They have info hut, an area for gathering, for tours, and then they have several buildings down there, which I did not recreate the backside of the entrance. Honestly, it was because I just didn't look far enough into the resources when I was building this. I didn't see anything in the first few things that I was working on for the resources of the back of the building, and then I found them later. They were further down in the pack of stuff that we had image and video wise to look at for resources. So I noticed they do have something quite a bit different than what I built on the back of the building, and I did not recreate the inside specifically to it. I stuck with fitting things into how the outside just kind of created itself. I was really just going for that first walk-in to really look like what you would experience as you come through this gator mouth and walk up to buy tickets. That was my goal, was to recreate that experience a little bit as you come through that and get your first views of the Cango Ranch. I was really trying to get that Cango Ranch on there and add in some of that color theme that they had. It's not exact, but it does the job. And they have it on both sides. Sorry about my camera jumping. So I get distracted when I build as I think of things that I want to do. Or sometimes what happens, it's not so much that I'm distracted, it's I will leave something that's a little more complicated, like working on this gator mouth and that entrance part right there where the curve is. So I'll leave that alone and go do something a little more simple as I kind of think about how I want to approach it or change it. And that does help me. So, just kind of letting it sit, I'll come up with a better idea while I'm doing something a little more simple versus struggling with it and redoing it multiple times, which does happen too. Sometimes it's just game restrictions or just the thought process in creating these things. So if you do see me jumping around from one thing to another and coming back, that's what I'm doing. A lot of times I'm taking a break mentally from trying to think out how all that goes together and how it's going to work, and then go do something simple and then come back to it. As I was looking through the images that were provided, I noticed that it was a different color inside than the green I had chose. So unfortunately, I couldn't just copy that partial cone and bring it back in. As you could see, the Z fighting was horrific. So I ended up pulling the copy of it out and then just nudging everything a little bit down and a little bit over so that it could slide right in. I wish there was a scale tool, like, hey, I just want to scale this down a smidge, instead of manually having to adjust it. And then covering up those little pieces, trying to get this to work the way I wanted. And I think I ended up deciding it was a little too high, and bringing it down some and taking a different approach for getting those two to meet between the wall and the top of that crocodile mouth. I ended up going with just a flat roof right there to connect those instead of trying to get them to fit curve-wise. And it also sets up for getting that square going for walking into the entrance. And I have to duplicate that both on the inside and the outside so that there's that nice color change. And our gator needs some eyes, man. He can't see. So let's get some eyes on him. I was worried at first when I had created the bottom and wanted to use that as the top part, but I think the texture differences turned out great because a crocodile crocodile, that's what they have. I live in the United States, so I live in Texas. We have alligators. So for a second I thought I said the wrong animal. But anyway, their snouts are textured, they're not flat. So I thought that came out really cool. I was super excited with how this crocodile mouth turned out. It was quite the challenge in thinking about how I was going to create this walkway with the curve and the arch, so that you kind of get the same feel. It is a super neat entrance. If I ever get the chance to travel outside of the United States and go over to Africa, I would definitely go visit the Cango Wildlife Ranch. I would just really enjoy getting to have that experience. I have traveled out of the United States a couple of times. I went to France when I was 18 with my parents for my mom's 40th birthday. And we had an 8-hour layover in London. So we got off the plane. This was in 1998, and we went and ran around London and then got on our plane to go to Paris and spend a week over in the different parts of the countryside around Paris as well. It was super fun. The rest of my travels have just been what's nearby. Mexico, Belize. I like to scuba dive. That's something my husband and I do together. We haven't done in a while. But I have been to the Blue Hole, and that's an amazing thing to go check out. There is a lot of detail that went into building this entrance. As you can see, most of it right here is custom done to create the walls with different pieces, with rocks and pillars. So I tested a couple of things out, and I do make some changes. I didn't like that straight look right there, so I found a smaller piece so that I could keep the curve going and start the straight look up top versus everything being square, rectangular right here, because it was more of an archway, and because I have several pieces going on, trying to make sure I find that Z-fighting when it occurs and give those pieces a nudge. I may not have caught them all, but I think I did. Sometimes they show up from certain angles and they don't from other ones. So sometimes they are hard to catch depending on what pieces you're using. And as you walk in, they do have some information. I did try to recreate some of that. Some of them are different. I just used different images that were also provided in the creator packs of stock images to put in there. And for the entrance and for the ticket booth, I used Canva to kind of recreate what I was seeing advertised as you went up to the ticket booth. and I don't have that in the speed build as far as setting all of those, but they will be in the images of the still shots, the cinematics that I have at the end. In the images, they didn't have any prices for how much the tickets were. They just had the outline of what kind of tickets you could buy and what the description was for them. And then a place where you could put in the changeable numbers and letters. So I went on to the Cango Wildlife Ranch website, and so the information on ticket pricing was from there, and I did that a couple days ago. So as of July 2021, that was the ticket entry prices that they had online, where you could book your experience there. So if you were going to plan a visit, that's definitely a good place to start, is check out the Cango Wildlife Ranch website, where you can get tons of information about visiting, about volunteering or doing, I think they even have, I forget the name, but they have some opportunities where you can kind of do, I guess, like an internship and work with them and get some experience, volunteer, stuff like that. They do have a lot of neat programs, so do make sure you go check out what they offer, not just for animals, but for people as well, to better themselves and help the animals at the same time. So off to the left there is what I like to do when I'm trying to create something. A lot of times I'll go through and throw out a bunch of options, because I have found I'll scroll and then forget what was a good one and have to go back and find it. So a lot of times I will create what I call a construction site, and as I scroll through, I'll throw out different options, ideas, set them to the side, and then once I settle on what I'm going to use, sometimes I just leave them over there for a while, because I might need them again for a different part. Eventually I'll get rid of the construction site. It's just part of my thought processes. I don't know. Anyway, I'm stuttery. So I'm recreating their little trash can box that they have as they come in. It had 3 different colors for recycling, for trash. This one did turn out a little bit bigger than theirs. Seems to be the theme as recreations go in Planet Zoo, is the scale oftentimes is quite bigger, or just different because of how the game is designed versus what we get to do in real life, obviously. So I'm just, at first I had one idea for how this was going to work, so I only copied the front part over and left it open on the bottom, and then I realized what I needed to do down there, so I filled that in afterwards. And I did use these guys here, and I was super excited that they existed. I'm a little sad though, I couldn't get them positioned in a way that they don't disappear. So these recycle signs will only show up at certain distances away. It's actually really weird, because when you get close you can see it, and then when you get just a little further away they disappear, and then at certain views at a distance they will pop back, and then again when you get really far they disappear again. So getting some screenshots of these was a little difficult, to find the right spot where they don't disappear. So you can see I was checking it there. I was like, man, what is up with that? It's so weird. They disappear, they come back, they disappear again. So decorating the bottom here, I didn't really go for the full recreation on it. I just wanted to give the feel of what they had at the real Cango Wildlife Ranch. A little bit of a backup. I noticed when I was reading Cango Ranch on the side of the crocodile mouth, I could not get the full thing to fit. So Cango Wildlife Ranch with the letters that I had. So I just went with Cango Ranch and moved on. finishing off this little trash can here, or cover. I did realize later that I forgot to do the top part. I just took that out of the speed build completely, because where I realized it was further away from this spot. So don't worry, I do remember to put a cover on it, and it will magically appear later in the speed build. So now I am framing off the little entrance part, and as I said, I like to terraform as I go down through here with the wall. I only did one side, so the real entrance, it's both sides. It goes down right and left. I took a long time to do this entrance. It was a lot of hours, and so I only had a set number of days to work on this before I needed to pass the file over. And I actually ended up doing a couple of things at the end when I got the file back from Ravenscar after he did his part. I had forgotten an animal, so he left me a little spot to put it in. So when I got the file back, Ravenscar had done beautiful scenery over there and made it his own. And again, it's not a full recreation of the Cango Wildlife Ranch. We just wanted to recreate the main entrance with the crocodile there and give it that nice feel to what it really looks like, and then just create the ZooLittle within the game and our imaginations. Oh, I cannot talk today. Imaginations. There we go. So I'm just bringing this wall all the way down. So there is another spot down here in real life where you can drive and get in, but I did not put that in. I didn't have the space. It would have been like, let's hop our car off the edge. So they have a little river that runs through underneath the front of the entrance. I wasn't really sure where all it went, so I just kept it in line with the front of the parking area, so it just kind of mirrors that shape, and brought the terrain down some so that I could hopefully get this across. And the pathing was not my friend. I had to give it several tries. We all know the pathing is often not our friend. So I finally get across there, and we can start the bridge part that leads to the ticket booths of the entrance at Cango Wildlife Ranch. And I added in a little bit of details of what it had in the images. I used the video for this part, and I would pause it and look at what they had going on as you looked to the left and to the right as you cross this little bridge. And I should have brought the angry archer over here. I thought that this would be tall enough, but in reference to the videos and the images, I ended up needing to use a taller piece. Not that it was a hard fix, but that part doesn't stay. I end up replacing those bamboo with the next size up. And I'm really struggling right there to get the path to do what I wanted it to do. It kept wanting to put a curb in the middle there, and I really did not want that. I also did leave out of the speed build part of the tickets and the spawners when I remember that I don't have all of that and they're needed, obviously. I originally tried to put them in the mouth of the alligator, but it really messed up the pathing, and I did not like the look or the feel of it. So what I ended up doing, also because if I put them somewhere else in the zoo, the guests have to walk through them before they'll interact with anything. So I didn't want it to be way out. Some of my other entrances, it's kind of that way. They go through the ticket booth after they pass some things. And what I found is in the game, they go through it and then they turn around and they go back to interact with the ticket booth or whatever I've put in there. So what I did here is I actually hid them in the parking lot. So they're out there, the actual ticket entry. So they spawn and then they'll walk behind the Cango Wildlife Ranch sign, because that's where I put it, and then they'll come back out and through the alligator. I really struggled here to find the right metallic piece, so I had to get really creative to get that look going there. They have several black, I'm not sure the material, but it's that, I guess it's black plexi, maybe that's it. And then they have a screen right here, which is the one I'm putting in, and the ones on the bottom are black plexi with gold lettering. I really wish there was more shiny objects, literally, in the game. So I ended up just recreating those in Canva and trying to give the feel of that metallic color. But I also went to some websites to get different logos to represent what they're members of, and their what's that travel site with the owl, TripAdvisor. Anyway, to get those where they had showcased just different things at the bottom as you walk in. So they do have a little winding path that goes down near the river and into the main part of the zoo. So I was getting that part in, and right about here is where I noticed how big my entrance really was getting compared to the size of this file. If you don't recognize it, it is basically the map from the very last career mode with nothing on it saved to be able to build on it, which I guess is how it starts out, because I'm silly, but a lot of the career modes, they already have stuff in them, but this was a challenge at the end. They give you a really small map and tell you need to fit all of these things on it. So yeah, I decided I needed to dig down, and I was going to put my staff resources in the ground and some off to the side in that building over there, but I realized they weren't all going to fit. So here I've changed the height of that bamboo barrier. I had realized it wasn't tall enough. Then we're going to add in the wood supports that are on the outside, and I was using the reference images here to kind of get them where they were in the pictures. I was super excited. Again, I probably can't say it enough. I've been so excited about this whole event, the build. It's been so hard not to share much of it. I know I've shared a few things. I was just so excited with how this came out, especially from the outside. I'm not super proud of the inside. Not gonna lie, I got tired and I needed to also move on so I could hand the file over. So the inside is not as impressive. It's nowhere to what they have actually at the Cango Wildlife Ranch. When you go in, I mostly was just filling in some spaces and creating walkways so that guests could move around and not get clogged too much. So I did put shops and food and stuff on the inside up there to get them to go up and out versus using the path that's supposed to be in. So here I borrowed this. I did not make these cars. This is from the workshop. I did not want to tackle trying to make vehicles, as this was a very challenging entrance to begin with. So this was made by John Arrows. I'm not sure if I said that right. He has it named as Car Recolorable. I did put a link in the description for it. It's the first link for workshop items that I used. I like to make sure that I give any creator on the workshop their shout out for something that I decided to use and not build myself. And in the image, all the cars that were parked in the front were white, so that was why I picked white for that color of that car. And as you can see, I put the spawners underneath them. I thought it would be funny, so that it looks like, I mean, it really looks weird. But yeah, they pop up and walk out of the car. I was entertained. It got the effect I wanted, sort of. But anyways, so I was trying to hide on the side here those little bits of the actual, what is that? You know, it's like a wall decoration, the art part of it, so that it wasn't visible from the sides. And then they have this cute little sign right above the entrance. So I was trying to recreate that ribbon look that it had. And this was my best shot at it. Had I had a lot more time for this, I probably would have used a billboard and done it with art shapes to get it more exact instead of so blocky. But it does do the job, and it gives that nice ribbon look, I think, that they have. But I couldn't get those two to have the same color, so I did end up copying that shape of that white sign that I put down first, so that I could, one, have the space in the middle, and two, they would be the same color. And I am using Ricey's fonts here. This one in particular is Ricey's tiny font. So I also have that link for you guys in the description if you need a tiny font. The way that I did this is making sure that I'm using I change it to axis. So there's a little button you can push that will change the arrows either relative to the shapes or relative to the world axis. So when you set the fonts down, you're going to want to make sure it's on the grid that the game provides for you. Don't spin it off of the grid. So if you hit C, it should stay on the grid. But I always just put it down exactly as the game gives it to me. And if it's not already extended, sometimes I'll extend that wall out so I can just slide letters using I for group select, make a little square, and then slide around and make the word I want. Sometimes I'll forget to push the stay on axis and they'll disappear because they slide the wrong direction. So just if you didn't know, I went through several options on the roof for this. It looked like they had more of a round roof on the top over here, and then created that arch into the round roof. But I decided I would scrap the round roof idea since curved roofs in the game are kind of limited, and I wasn't real sure how it would look trying to create one with the thatched pieces. So I opted to just bring this arch up and fill it in a little bit right here. That way I could have what it kind of looked like in the pictures on the underside where the roof goes straight up and you have that triangular look going on. I'm not an architect, so I don't know what the real terms would be or the correct ones would be for describing some of that. And on the inside right here, they did have quite a bit of log supporting underneath. So even though the roof that I used has the bamboo support, I went ahead and added the beam supports underneath as well as to the outside, also to give a little different color and contrast from all the yellow tones, earth tone, well, light earth tone, I guess, that's present there. And I thought it turned out really nice as it goes up. I had a really hard time trying to pick the right color. They either got too dark, too yellow, so I settled on this one for my mud walls. I still feel they're a little bit too yellow, but overall again, I'm super excited with this whole project. I had a lot of fun with it. So just finishing off all those little details, trying to get everything in the same level, I guess is the word I'm looking for, because I noticed right there they weren't quite the same. They weren't meeting. One was stuck out way more than the other. And adding in the underside support. Originally I did try copying it straight over, but well, maybe I'm gonna do that here. Did it work? I can't even remember. Yeah, it looks like it did. Sometimes I struggle with getting that. I couldn't remember how I did it. So I've done all the work about a week or two ago, and am doing my editing and voiceover way after the fact. So as I was editing through some of this, it was kind of funny. I would ask myself several times, what was I doing? Why am I wandering around looking at the park in weird angles? What was I thinking about? I know I was probably plotting and scheming how I was going to do things, but it was just like, where am I going? Why am I leaving this? And what's happening? I got a good chuckle at myself. So right here they have their exit right next to the entrance. Thinking back, I probably should have tried to use the Q trick, meaning you use the Q path in order to make a smaller than 4-meter path. I probably should have done that here, but I didn't think about it until I started the voiceover for this. So it is quite wide, but it works. So it just had to widen some things out. As a side note too, I did take out quite a bit of the speed build for setting up all the underground staff resources. It's a lot of tight spaces. The camera angles are kind of funny, and that's not what we're showcasing here, because we're here to celebrate and help out the Cango Wildlife Ranch. So I took that out of the speed build for those reasons. I also, they're just there to support. They're not there to be fancy. I just covered them up with some walls, and I did try to make it look nice as it goes down there, but it's not anything that's gonna wow anybody. And continuing just doing the workaround that I need to make this fit in the real Cango Wildlife Ranch. You can see into the ticket area. I can't do that in game, obviously, so that's another reason I just kind of did my own thing, and then checking to see if I can put this here, and it looks like it's a little too close, so I'm looking for areas to start putting in the staff support for the zoo. And in their videos they did say over on this side where I'm about to put this staff center right here, that they do have offices and some things that support the Cango Wildlife Ranch over there as far as not guest areas go. And they did mention that they do have their vet care facility over here as well, and I believe they did say it's in the downstairs part. So that's kind of cool. It is a little bit set up how they have, just not a direct recreation. It was more just, where can I fit these things and stop taking so much space? I needed to make sure that I left myself and Raven Scar some room to put in habitats, because like I said before, I'm noticing that my entrance is starting to really take up a lot of space, especially as I get into that entrance plaza area. Oh my gosh, I cannot talk today. Area. There we go. Part of the reason I think I struggle is my headset does play back, so I'm hearing myself as I speak, and so sometimes I'm processing what I just said as well. I've tried turning it down, but I do like being able to hear myself so that I know if I'm speaking loud enough or too loud. But that's just me. Maybe I do need to learn how to do it without hearing myself. But that does create's not the right word, that does cause me to pause a little bit more than I normally would. But I'm not great at talking all the time either. I stumble on words a lot. I forget words a lot, meaning I know them, but my mind is just not bringing them up. It's a daily struggle. Part of it's probably because I'm getting older, and I think some of it also has to do with I actually have rheumatoid arthritis. Mostly it shows up in my tendons versus traditional attacking your hands. My hands do hurt, but my tendons are what actually start really getting bad versus what some other people experience when it comes to RA. But it also creates brain fog. So I do struggle sometimes. Some days are better than others. But I'm super blessed. Mine is not as serious as some other people's. I just experience a lot of fatigue sometimes, the brain fog, and of course pain. But you live on. Anyway, enough about that. So there's me covering up the inside. I did do some more detailing down there. I did add, what are they called? A water treatment down there later. I realized I had forgotten them, but I didn't include that. The camera angles are so tight. But that is where one of them is. I redid my path there to try to hide it off a little bit. I really dislike how the curbs are there on elevated. I wish they would go away, but alas, they are part of the game. You get curbs whether you want them or not if the path is not on the ground. I really struggled getting those to copy and move around. I put another one, I think a third one, on the inside, and I had to move it a number of times to get it in the right spot. And filling in, trying to close off this entrance area so that we're almost there. We're almost to the end. So I do apologize. This was way longer than I thought it would be. When I sat down to edit it, I was like, oh, this is going to be long. And I really did try to cut out some stuff. I do give you my basic approach to the roofing here. I do take out some of the infill things that I did. Also, for the same reasons as I don't include a lot of the underneath where the staff stuff is. It's just the camera angles are weird, they're wonky, and I redid them a couple of times trying to figure out how I wanted this to work as these two things came together. I had several different ideas. What I end up doing is adding in some wall right there, and then splitting it off so that it just meets. I really struggled getting that little area to come together nicely. I still wasn't 100% happy with it, but overall I'm super happy with how this turned out. I think it's just super cute in game. Again, I would love to go visit this in real life. And right about now, I am regretting that I have so many terrain and elevation changes throughout the inside of this. I was not looking forward to covering up that path. I decided to go ahead and bring the outside walls down one more level because I could see it wasn't quite hitting the ground. Added a little seating in here, and now I am decorating inside. So I did not make a lot of these things that are in here. They are from the workshop. So the cooler off to the left that you see right here, that is from the Prattville Zootique gift shop by ID. I'm not sure how you say that, but anyway, it's id.asld from that workshop. The wall displays I got from Bork's workshop. Both of those links can be found in the description, as well as it's called Gift Shop Poster Flip Rack. I have it in my favorites, as well as, I can see it in my subscribed items, but when I click on it, I get an error. So if it starts working, I'll update the description. So I posted a little screenshot of my entrance in the Unicorn Community Discord, run by Pausley and his community. So I changed the plate name to Paul, because when I shared the image, he jokingly said, "I don't know who John is, but he's parked in my spot." So I changed the name to Paul. So there is another joke later on about that at the end of this video. Again, I'm kind of bouncing around in what I'm working on. I got a little tired, so to speak, of inside, so I came back outside to do a little bit of rock work. And then I was like, okay, I'm ready to get back in these little tight spaces and figure out what I want to do here. That door there is also from the Prattville Zoo gift shop that I mentioned earlier. I really like that gift shop. It had a lot of great things in it, and I've borrowed a couple of items out of there instead of building my own. I have built my own doors, but like I said, this was turning into a really long build. As you can see, we're hitting almost an hour, and I knew that when I was building it, so I did start just borrowing some things towards the end to make it go a little faster. Also, if somebody's already done it, sometimes why recreate the same thing? Because my door that I've created is very similar to that one. I like the mat, the little walk-off mat. So we're using John's cars again. It gave me an idea. I thought it would be fun to put in some more cars. I always intended to. I wasn't gonna mess with the license plates. However, it gave me an idea. So my favorite color is purple. So I put in a car and I made it purple, and I took John's name off and shortened mine and put it on the license plate. And I don't know what Raven Scar's favorite color is, but he has a lot of red on his YouTube channel and in his logo, so he gets a red car. Going back and putting some finishing touches on this little walkthrough, I did edit out some of the rock work that I did along the river on the inside, and doing the foliage of this walkthrough. I took out the addition of some extra foliage, so you can kind of see it just appear over there. You'll get a good look at it in the live stream. So as you come down right here, they have an info hut where you can meet up with a guide, depending on what kind of ticket you have, I think. And you would meet them here to do your activities, as well as you can get different information about exhibits and things in the zoo. They have a little poster board with a bunch of advertisements on them, as well as a couple other things in here. So I wanted to add this in just to have it here. And also, when I get to the peafowls, I do use this as a place to put their water, since they do not have access to the habitats themselves. I did not want to add another water feature, as the peafowls were not included until the very end, so there really wasn't any room to do so. So anyway, they did have a little pegboard right there. I ended up taking that corkboard off, or whatever it's called in the game, and just putting a screen. Anyway, just because I really couldn't find things that could go there to set up where they had paper clippings and stuff like that up on that board. And on the inside here, they do have a meetup where you can wait for the next tour of a specific area. So I wanted to include that in my entrance part of the build, and that was the last thing that I did as far as kind of recreation goes, because as you come down here, they actually have I think it's called a turtle cafe, where they have a reptile exhibit and where you can get some food to the left, where I do put in a food vendor, but it just opens right out up into this. And then they have several little buildings around here, and then it takes you off into all directions into the zoo. This actual waiting area does back up right onto a building. Had I built it, Raven Scar would not have had room for his animals. So as I said, this was kind of the last thing I went for in trying to recreate kind of what they have as you come down into this area. Was this little sitting area to wait. So I kind of looked at its shape and gave it my own spin to fit in this space and be able to leave room for the rest of the project. Again, all the information for CangoThon, I have links galore in the description for workshop items. I have the CangoThon links. I have how to donate. You can also, if you can't donate, that's okay. They do have a YouTube channel, so make sure you go check out that YouTube channel for Cango Ranch. And they recently hit their 1,000 subscriber mark, so super exciting. However, go watch their videos. If you're not familiar with YouTube, it takes two things to be able to generate any revenue from YouTube. One is your subscriber count, the other is watch time. So Cango Wildlife Ranch needs a lot more watch time to be able to utilize their YouTube page to help fund their efforts. The last number I saw was they had about 2,000 watch hours, and YouTube requires 4,000. So they have a lot of neat videos over there. I really enjoyed watching how they do their training with the cheetahs. I have 4 dogs in my house. I have 2 huskies, I have a corgi, and we have what I call the ancient one. And man, I wish that I was as good at training animals as they are. It's amazing. But it takes a lot of dedication, a lot of repetitiveness, and I'm a softie. That's probably my fault. My animals are so badly behaved. When we have guests come over, they get so excited. The corgi is the biggest brat because he's so little, and that tends to be the biggest issue is with smaller animals. We let them get away with way more. My huskies don't. One of them's 70 pounds. The other one is about 55. So they don't really get that leeway like the corgi does. He weighs 25 pounds, but he's much smaller in his stature. He's a beefy boy. So I'm adding in that restroom and the little shop here. I wanted to make sure they had something right here to go to, so that they wouldn't get clogged in the entrance as well, because it is a tight space up there. And it's just something I like to do. All of my areas always have food and drink. I think that comes from the franchise building. They need that almost everywhere they go, or they get unhappy. So it's just my habit. Near every habitat, I include some sort of shopping options for refreshments, as well as seating areas. I use the Indian one here because they can be set offset of the path instead of on it. So when I went to put the umbrella on, it didn't snap. So I had to set those in myself. And for the peafowls, I needed to add this gate to keep them from coming out here. So here we are at the entrance. I have added Glenn, Andrew, and Gazzy. I gave cars for them. And a shout out to Ramano. He was so nice and built me that tow truck you see there. I asked if anybody could get me a tow truck because we needed to actually show John being towed away. I had to include that. It just was so funny to me. So here we are at the end of our video, just taking a peek at different angles. Thank you so much for watching. If you made it this far, or if you just skipped ahead, that's fine too. I do appreciate you guys watching and supporting the CangoThon 2021. And get the next episode from Raven Scar. The link is in the description. Have a great day, and may the RNG odds be ever in your favor.